Welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect. The second half of the season is now underway. The All-Star break is a thing of the past, and players, teams are now looking ahead, everybody wanting to make a push to make the playoffs, and then, of course, to compete for a WNBA championship. From what I can tell, from what I've heard, fans had a great time at All-Star weekend, if you don't count the abysmal All-Star game, because whoo. But it seems like the fans had a good time. It seems like the players were able to connect with other players, perhaps players they don't usually connect with. But it's about to go down for this second half of the season. In fact, July 22nd, tonight, there are a whole lot of games going on. For example, tonight we've got the Sparks versus the Mystics, Indiana versus the Liberty, Chicago versus Minnesota, Atlanta versus Las Vegas, Dallas versus Seattle. So a whole lot of basketball to be played. And as much as people got a chance to take a step back for the All-Star break, if you want to call it a break, the All-Star pause, it's time that we're going to start talking again about the officiating, I'm sure. In fact, it really didn't stop because Commissioner Kathy Engelbert was asked about that during All-Star weekend, and we'll get to that. But one of the things that I noticed is that there was a certain unity on display during the festivities of All-Star weekend. We saw players wear those shirts. Pay us what you owe us. That was a disaster, but it was a disaster together. It was a unified disaster in wearing the shirts. Now, I have to believe that there are players who did not want to wear that shirt. At least I hope there are players who had enough sense that they did not want to wear that shirt. But I'm going to imagine those who felt that way said, okay, I'm going to put aside my own feelings. I'm going to be in unity with the rest of the league, the rest of the players in the league, and I'm going to wear the shirt. And so they did. So we know that these competitors are able to come together to unite for a cause that overall, I guess, they believe in. Well, now that we're into the second half of the season and officiating is a thing again that we're all going to have to look at, and unfortunately, probably be a lot of opportunities to criticize as observers, this league, the players in this league, the coaches in this league need to show one another that they can unite in a different way. Yeah, you wore your t-shirts. That's great. I guess it's not. But as far as you're concerned, that's great. Now, what about the officiating? Can these players and the coaches come together and take a stand? Because not only are we talking about just horrible calls, which affects the play, not only are we talking about injuries that can happen when officiating isn't where it's supposed to be, we're also talking about vying for an opportunity to compete for the ultimate prize for them, and that is a championship. So something needs to be done to show that they stand together. And before I share with you what I'm thinking, let me take you back to something that Kathy Engelbert said back in June, the end of June, about the officiating. So we're going to go over to X, to an account called @ClarkSeason. This is a quote from the commissioner. It says, "There's always room for growth and improvement in officiating. I do find it interesting when you sit in the chair I sit in that no winning team ever complains about officiating. No losing team ever doesn't complain about officiating." Let me translate. You're whining. Kathy Engelbert is saying that the people who complain about the officiating are people who are just upset that they lost. That if you were winning, you wouldn't be saying anything. So in other words, move along. There's nothing to see here. That's the translation of what she just said. I really don't care because you're just whining. Is that a good translation? I think so. Well, Angel Reese got annoyed in July with officiating. And I'm going to say that Kathy Engelbert is wrong. The complaining, if you want to call it complaining or whining about the officiating, is happening from all ends of the WNBA and fan bases everywhere. Angel Reese has some comments to say about it in July. So we're going to go over to the Sky's YouTube page and take a look at what she said. And then we're going to get into what I think needs to be done to send a message.
Yeah, I think we fought really hard. It's tough when you talk to officials and I asked them, hey, we only shot 2 free throws. We only went to the free throw line twice up into the fourth quarter. And she tells me it's not her job. So I know it's frustrating because I know how hard we're battling inside. And I think that we came down and fought as hard as we could with what we had. And I just know that we continue to grow in this. And I think it's the leaping step for us. And obviously we know we can compete with the best. But that has to be fixed. And I don't give a damn if I get fined because that shit cheap. And I am tired of the shit. Because I've been nice and I've been humble with it, but I am tired of the shit.
Well, I think she let us know exactly how she feels. And she's not the only person who has been extremely passionate in her comments about the officiating, of course. I remember when Kelsey Plum looked like she was about to cry. And she was just like, this is just ridiculous. I don't know what else I could do. So the frustration has been building, but I pointed out Angel's comments. Well, first of all, let me put this out there. When the official said, that's not my job, the official meant it's not my job to make sure you get to the line, which she wasn't saying it's not my job to blow the whistle if there's a foul. Apparently, the official was saying, it's not my job to figure out for you how to make sure you are aggressive enough to get to the line. This is what she was saying. I'm not supposed to make sure you get to the line 5 times, 6 times, 7 times a game. But Angel Reese obviously didn't like the answer. And she especially didn't like the answer because of the level of officiating. But what she did there is something that players in this league and coaches in this league and front offices in this league need to be willing to do. Angel said, I don't care if I get fined. First of all, it's cheap. Second of all, I'm tired of it. I'm done. It needs to be fixed. Fine me if you want. I really don't care. I don't care. And the problem with some of this horrible officiating going without accountability is that the people who are most impacted by it do care. Constantly say, I don't want to get a fine, whether you're talking about players, whether you're talking about coaches. Now, I don't know how much you get fined for criticizing an official. I did some research today and all I found was that the league does not divulge that information. Now, one person's sheep is not another person's sheep, but Angel Reese said it's cheap. And I don't care because I'm so fed up with this. If you can unite and put on a t-shirt talking about pay us what you owe us, I'm calling on these players, these coaches, these front offices to unite and say, find me. I'm going to speak up because this thing where you can call horrible games and people are getting hurt and you just look like you don't need to be out there doing that job. If that's the case, there has to be some kind of accountability. And we already heard Kathy Engelbert talking about, deal with it, basically. So when will the league, players, coaches, front offices come together and say, you know what? This is find me day. Find me day. Okay. And those people who have more money than other people and you want to throw money in the pot to cover your brothers and sisters in the league when they get fined, then you do that. You come together, you get to the podium, you call it like it is, you get on your social media account, you call it like it is. Where are the people who are willing to do what Angel did? And where are the people who say, okay, I'm willing to back you up if you do that? I'll put my money in the pot. Let's not care what the ramifications are. Everybody unite together, everybody speak up, and stop being afraid, because this whole thing where you don't have any accountability is off the charts. We know there's a problem with the officiating. It's not like it's being made up. It's not like Kathy Engelbert says, where, well, they're only just whining. No, it's a real thing and it's a real problem. So unite together on that front, because everyone benefits from that. Unite together and say, hey, on July whatever 25th, this is Find Me Day, because I'm going to speak up. Will it make things better? I don't know. Did the t-shirts of pay us what you owe us make things better? No, I guess. But you all say you wanted to make a statement. Be a united front and make a statement for every player in the league, for every team in the league. I'm not shutting my mouth up. I'm going to call it like it is. Now, it's happened. We've heard players obviously pointed out. We've heard coaches pointed out, and not just this season either, but it's worse this season. Stephanie White says, this is, it's, there's always been a certain level of physicality that gets overlooked, but it's never been what we see right now. It is, to use a word she used in the early part of the season, egregious. But what happens is you get one isolated coach saying something here, and then the next time saying, well, I don't want to get fined. And then you get a player saying something, I don't want to get fined. And then you get another player who says, don't worry, I got you. I got you. How about you all say, I got you, I got you. And everybody open your mouth, get on your keyboards, because we know you can do it. You did it at All-Star Weekend. Social media, apparently all the stuff, all the things you were doing were rampant. Come together and say, we have got to take a stand and do this thing together and support one another in the fines, or whatever they are, the cheap fines, as Angel Reese called them, and stick up for one another, because every single person stands to benefit when you have a quality product. Now, that's my thought. It might be an absolute bust, but I say it's worth a try. We know you can unify. We saw you do it. Do it again, and do it in a way that makes the kind of statement that you really need to make, because there's no accountability any other way. Now, Kathy Engelbert was asked about officiating during All-Star Weekend. We're going to take a look at what she said. We're going to go over to X, over to what account is this? I'm at No Cap Space WBB.
Go forward. On the officiating, we hear the concerns, we take that input. Every play is reviewed. We spend hours and hours and hours. Obviously, we use that then to follow up with officials, training. Consistency is important, I think. I think some people observe our game versus other basketball formats are that there aren't a ton of fouls called, but I realize consistency is the name of the game. So I think it's something we definitely did look at and evaluate, and there's an independent evaluation of our officials. There are ramifications. It's something we need to continue to work on. And as our game has evolved, so does our officiating. So we're on it, and I know as a fan of sports for 60 years now, I know that no one's ever happy with officiating. All sports deal with it, but we're working hard to make sure we're putting the best product out on the court, and our officiating then follows that.
So she is talking, we're on it, we are aware of the concerns, we are getting better, etc., etc. And then she does exactly what she did in the other clip I showed you, and that is, over 60 years of sports, I've never seen people happy with the officiating. In other words, it's bogus. She totally said all that to do what? To dismiss the concerns and say, oh, for 60 years, people have been complaining, which means you're not taking it seriously. If you're that dismissive about it and saying, oh, it's been like this for 60 years, nobody's ever happy with the officiating, unless you're win and then you're fine, then you're not taking it seriously. So I can't believe that you're really on it, Mrs. Engelbert. I just can't believe it because you're continually dismissive of it. Get you some new t-shirts. We know you all are fond of t-shirts to send a message. The t-shirt says, pay us what you owe us. Get you a t-shirt that says, give us the refs we deserve. Subscribe to the Adrienne Ross Show if you haven't done so. I'll catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.